I'm proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores.
Zohran's actually doing it, and it's already turning into a farce. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet culture, and more. We are going to check in with Mayor Zohran Mamdani, the rising star in the Democratic Party, who is, of course, the mayor of New York City. And one of his big promises during his mayoral campaign was the free grocery stores or the affordable grocery stores, government-run grocery stores that he was going to enact as part of his socialist utopia. And to his credit, it's actually happening. But as the details roll out with all of this, it already seems like even more, somehow, of a terrible idea than we already thought. We're going to go through it all. First, here's the headline from the New York Times. Mamdani's grocery stores will offer 30% discount on some products. Mayor Zohran Mamdani's 5 city-owned grocery stores will provide a 30% discount on produce, meat, bread, and milk. Mayor Zohran Mamdani has promised that city-owned grocery stores will bring down prices for shoppers. On Monday, he announced the exact discount, 30% for some basic groceries, including vegetables, meat, bread, and milk. The city is moving to select private operators to run 5 city-owned stores, 1 in each borough. The city will build the stores and waive rent and property taxes. It is also expected to provide an operating subsidy to help pay for the discounts. But what do you mean? I thought it was just free and affordable. Oh wait, you're telling me that they're going to have to use taxpayer money to subsidize the lower prices, so you just pay more in taxes and then but maybe get the cheaper groceries. But even that is going to be pretty scarce. Anyway, we're going to get into all my critiques of this because I really think it's one of the most comically absurd policy initiatives I've seen in a long, long time. But first, I'm going to play you a clip of Zohran speaking in his genuinely eloquent and charismatic fashion. He's a very compelling figure about this new initiative yesterday. Let's watch.
All of this leaves too many New Yorkers feeling like groceries are out of reach. And that is frankly unacceptable, which is why city government is stepping in to make people's lives more affordable. Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line. Not for our seniors living on fixed incomes, nor for the parents who rely on a regular supply of apple slices to keep toddler tantrums at bay.
I mean, why not a 100% discount? Why not a 70% discount? Since it's all just free, it's all just from the magic money tree of socialism, why not just give out all the groceries for free? Because at the end of the day, what you're doing here is you're just having people pay for it for the discount in taxes. There's going to be huge long lines for whoever gets there and is able to get these groceries because they're at such sharply discounted rates paid for by a taxpayer subsidy. The cost of this is expected to be over $70 million, and that's before the inevitable overruns and delays that will accompany this kind of project. And then what's going to happen is it's going to put local businesses out of business. How are they supposed to compete with the prices of these? Now, of course, it's only a few government-run stores, so it's not probably going to affect the whole market writ large, but at least in those local areas, bye-bye to the bodegas that rely on these sorts of sales to stay afloat, because how are they supposed to compete with taxpayer-subsidized, artificially 30% cheaper prices? So these businesses go under, then the stores are the only thing there left, and then more and more people join the lines, more and more taxpayer money gets funneled into this mess, and before you know it, you just have a broken and dysfunctional and insanely expensive taxpayer boondoggle replacing your private grocery system, which was already remarkably effective. And if the problem was people struggling to afford the groceries, which is legitimate, that's why programs like SNAP and food stamps exist. And you could have actually a subsidy if for some reason the current system isn't helping enough. I think it's helping plenty. But if you believe that, you could add additional subsidies or payments or assistance for folks to afford groceries. But you don't need to make to start from scratch and build these huge, expensive, special government-run stores. The whole thing is absurd. It's genuinely ridiculous. But the folks that Zohran is aligned with in the Democratic Socialists of America, the far-left extremist organization, are actually celebrating or just totally glib about the idea of putting local businesses out of business. I want to play you a clip of DSA co-chair Gustavo Gordillo talking about this very issue in question on Fox News. Let's watch.
They're up like breaking ground on one grocery store so far. It's going to cost $30 million to build a grocery store. In what world does it make sense to build a $30 million grocery store and put competitive pressure on the bodegas that are in the neighborhood?
Yeah. I think that what we saw in the mayoral campaign is the mayor was able to build a movement that inspired people to believe that we could have a government that works for ordinary people, that is actually responsive to the working class.
Inspiration is great, but if you're the bodega owner, how would you feel if the government opened a big grocery store right next to your bodega?
If one publicly owned grocery store that brings prices down in the neighborhood is enough to put someone out of business, then maybe they shouldn't have been in that business in the first place.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he's like, haha, who cares if your business goes out of business? If you can't afford to compete with the artificially low prices of these state-run grocery stores that are subsidized by taxpayers and are giving 30% discounts that are just being taken out of your pocket through more taxes, then your business sucks and you shouldn't exist. That is insane and just a slap in the face to all these hardworking business owners. Of course they can't compete, and that's through no fault of their own. Doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong. And this doesn't even make sense because these city-run grocery stores are setting their prices as a function of the market prices. So even if the bodegas tried to lower their prices, then the city-run price would just get lower and lower and lower. It's literally impossible to compete with them. I want to read you an explanation of this from the writer Daniel Munoz, who explained this in a really interesting way on Substack. He wrote that it bears repeating, Mamdani stores are not just cutting their prices by being efficient or innovative. They're not doing that at all. And then he says, quote, they are designed to systematically undercut the competition's prices no matter how low they go, because the city's prices are pegged to 70% of the prevailing market rate. There is no possible way for local stores to compete, no matter how well they operate or how sharply they cut their own profit rates, because every cut they make will cause the city to cut their prices even further at taxpayer expense. This is what's so absurd about this, is you are literally creating an impossible situation for these business owners at this enormous expense to taxpayers relative to this, obviously in the grand scheme of the budget, it's not that big, but relative to the endeavor that you're achieving here, it's vast expense. And then it's actually just going to put them out of business and cause problems, and then not even necessarily help the people that need it the most. Because the thing about these grocery stores is, at least so far, there's no qualifications. There's no vetting for who gets to go in. So you could be perfectly comfortable. You could be earning $90,000 a year and able to purchase your own groceries, but you just get in the line and go get your discounted stuff. And so the benefits here are not even being conferred on the needy necessarily. Now, the ultra rich are probably not going to bother to get in line and wait for their discounted bread, but just people who are capable. The benefits here are not structured in a way where they're actually targeted to the truly poor and needy at all. That's another part of this that's so boneheaded. Munoz explains that in this part. Notice that anyone can shop there. There is no means testing. By contrast, food stamps are designed to help the poor, and they don't cause long lines or put more efficient grocers out of business. And that's what's especially crazy about this, guys, is all over my social media feed, I see liberal and progressive policy wonks who support more subsidies and more government assistance for people on food, saying that this is just a stupid and nonsensical way to even approach that issue, because it's really just about two things. I think it's about the retail politics of this. I think rhetorically, politically, aesthetically, it looks like you're doing something, right? We're breaking ground on new stores. They're going to get handed discounted bread from Mayor Mamdani, and so you get to take credit for something. So that's the attraction of this. But that's pure politics. That's not policy merits or economic efficiency or any sort of thing, and the bodegas that quietly go out of business or the huge economic inefficiencies created by this just don't get that same level of people noticing as the benefit. So I get how maybe this could be a effective political or marketing strategy or tool, but it's a terrible policy. And even the liberals and progressives I see who are smart and who just have some sort of common sense about how they approach public policy think this is a bizarre way to go about trying to increase food affordability in New York City, because it's not really the goal. I think the goal is two things. One, it's that politics I talked about. And two, it's getting people more comfortable with socialism and government power and government takeover of industry. Because, in their own words, the Democratic Socialists of America, which Zohran is aligned with, and in many of his past comments, where he was quite openly Marxist and socialist, full-blown, their end goal is a government takeover of the economy. They say this in the DSA platform. They want the government to take over large corporations and major industries. So they really want a government run everything, pretty much. And that's the end state that they have in mind. And so small things like this allow them to, one, politically thrive and get possible electoral benefits. Who cares if it's, a huge economic net loser? And two, it allows them to make people more comfortable and slowly shift the Overton window more and more towards socialist takeover of private business, which is something I think is a terrible idea. But from, I guess, their perspective of trying to Trojan horse this stuff in, I mean, it's not crazy. Well, it's crazy, but it's not a bad strategy necessarily. However, this is a very fertile ground for Republicans to pounce or seize on this. And so I want to read you a tweet from Congresswoman Lisa McClain, who wrote about this story. This is communism. We have history to show exactly what will happen. The government opens a subsidized grocery store at 30% below cost. Local stores can't compete and go under. The city store becomes the only option. Shelves go empty. Rationing starts, 2 per customer. There will be daily rushes, hoarding, and lines around the block. Quality quietly tanks, wilted produce, thinner cuts, fewer choices. The subsidy bill balloons forever. You didn't solve hunger, you just built another Soviet breadline. Now, to be honest, this level of effect is not going to happen because it's just a couple of stores. But what she's describing is, I think, effective counter-messaging and actually is what would happen if you took this kind of approach citywide. Now, because it's just a couple stores, it's probably not going to have that drastic an effect as she's describing. But if you were to actually keep it going, and that's how a lot of times these sorts of things start, it's just, oh, well, we're just going to do a little bit of this. And then once they kind of get their foot in the door and normalize it, then they push it further and further and further. So that's one of the reasons you have to be on guard against this kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's just so interesting to see a policy like this that is being cheered and celebrated, of course, by Zohran supporters, by many like left-wing or left-leaning media pundits and outlets, and they're just cheering it. And to be fair, I guess the one point they have in their favor that is objectively correct is Zohran is following through on his promises. This was one of the things he campaigned on, and he is doing it, which I guess is good in the sense of like fulfilling your promises, but it's also probably one of the dumbest things he ran on. So it would probably be better if he didn't fulfill his promises or went back on his promise, because then he'd be on the correct side of the policy debate and he wouldn't waste so many taxpayer dollars and potentially bankrupt some local businesses while you're at it and cause all these destructive effects. But other than that, Zohran is doing amazing, guys. I don't know. That's just my take on this story. I want to hear from you guys what you think, especially any New Yorkers in the audience. I know I've got a bunch of people from New York City who do watch my content because maybe they aren't drinking the far left Kool-Aid the way so many of their fellow citizens in New York are. But I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you think. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you aren't yet, do hit the like button. And listen, I call it the far left and the far right. I don't drink the Team Blue or Team Red Kool-Aid, so I'm actually independent. That is not the best business model, though. The best business model is to just shill for one side or just pander to one crowd. I don't do that, so I need support from viewers like you. Hit the join button or click the link in the pinned comment to become a channel member today. It is the best way to support my work. And with that, guys, we'll leave it there for this one. Go ahead and go get yourself in line for the bread at Mayor Mamdani's I think it's not even opening for like another year or two. It's obviously you're building something from scratch instead of working within the perfectly functional system that already exists. So it's not going to be a quick thing. And we will continue to monitor this story with interest and be back with more real soon.